Before we move on from March Madness, I want to talk about South Carolina and Caitlin Clark. So Caitlin Clark faces South Carolina. I think it was the highest rated women's basketball game of all time. It broke all these records. I think it was like 18 million viewers, something like that. And South Carolina just better top to bottom. Caitlin Clark did everything she could in that tournament, put all of herself out there, and just couldn't get it done. A lot of people, even commenting on a video that I put out about a month ago, said she's not the greatest because she didn't win a national championship, which is the most ignorant thing I've ever heard. Broke tons of records and is now in the WNBA. And we'll see what kind of an impact she has going forward. But I wanted to ask you about Dawn Staley, because this is a coach now who's coming. People say she's coming up, but it's like, how many national championships has she won now? Undefeated seasons. And I wonder, when all is said and done for her, are we going to be talking about her in the same way that we talk about Pat Summitt, Gino, right? In the pantheon of just college coaches in general?
Yeah, I would say so. She's certainly well on her way. The way that what I saw in that national championship game was basically a very talented team against one person and a supporting cast that didn't do a whole bunch, which was the difference between the semifinal game against LSU and the championship. In the semifinal game, whenever Caitlin Clark was struggling, she did get some help from her teammates. They were able to pick up the slack a little bit. That did not happen in the national championship. She didn't get help from anybody, and they could. And I really apologize because I don't know the young lady's name, but the center for South Carolina, they had no answer for her. I don't know how many offensive rebound putbacks they could not stop her at all. It didn't matter what they did; she was dominant.
Nobody could.
And then to hear that they had three or four freshmen on that team that were playing meaningful minutes. So they're going to be back, and they're going to be there for a while, because I don't know that the transfer portal really hits women's college basketball the same way maybe it does men, because likely the reality is there probably isn't the money there at a lot of other places that there is on the men's side.
And
Obviously,
winning matters a lot in college. Like, you want to be at a school like South Carolina because they win.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah, I think she keeps this thing rolling 100%. She's absolutely going to be in that conversation with Pat Summitt and Gino Auriemma and
Coach K. And those guys too.
That's so weird. And I don't. This would be a much longer conversation, but
sure,
people are so hesitant to group like the Gino Auriemmas of the world, the Pat Summitts, with Coach K also, because I think people see it very different. And I could make the argument for it being different, just because I think the talent pool is deeper on the men's side. So you could say it's more of an accomplishment to win because there's more good teams, just because there's more parity, I guess. Where on the women's side, it's very top heavy. The top 10 teams are usually head and shoulders better than. There's a big gap, I would say. At least that's the way it appears to me. Now, I do think that's improving, which is great to see. I think that's improving tremendously, and having what Caitlin Clark did and getting more eyes on women's college basketball is only going to help it moving forward, because now everyone's going to be looking for the next Caitlin Clark, who can be the next media darling and all this. Those things are good. I know that people, it's bizarre to me that people hate on it so much, because it's great for the sport. It's absolutely great for the sport, and it can only help the WNBA as things move forward with her. But not to stray too far away from Dawn Staley, what she did was tremendous, and she's put a great program together, and they've been consistently really, really good. And to run the table and beat some of the teams that they beat in the tournament the way that they beat them was really impressive.
While there are differences between the men's and women's game fundamentally in certain aspects, coaching is still coaching. And you've got to do the same things that you do day in and day out in order to be consistent. Because if it were as easy as these people are making it, everybody would do it. Not everybody can do it. I mean, look at Iowa. It took Caitlin Clark for them to be on the map. So their coach, whose name I don't remember, and I apologize for that, was not on the map until Caitlin Clark got there and they started breaking records. But Dawn Staley is creating a dynasty. Gino Auriemma, a dynasty. Pat Summitt, same thing. Like, all of these coaches in women's college basketball were creating sustainability. That part is not easy to do. And Coach K winning as many games as he did, Tom Izzo, Bob Knight, Roy Williams, it takes a lot of talent to do that, just in my opinion. And so I agree with you that people are hesitant, but I feel like they shouldn't be hesitant, because at some point we just have to get to the idea of, like, good coaching is good coaching. And I know when I see it, and Dawn Staley is doing it. And the other thing I love about her is she also is very similar to a Dan Hurley type, where she coaches very much with her emotions on her sleeve, but she's also not unwilling to call her players out in a way that is respectful. Like in the semifinal or maybe it was the Elite Eight game when they had to squeak by Oregon State, and her player was like, "Nobody can guard us," and she said, "We blew a 20-point lead tonight." Like, and it was, done respectfully, jokingly, but like being able to do that, I love that when you're able to be like, "Yeah, maybe you think that, but we also blew a 20-point lead. Like, let's keep that in mind." And that's what keeps her players motivated and hungry. That part of it is not always easy to do for every coach. And like I said, everybody would do it if it was that easy.
And I love to hear those things from a coach and like you even hear them. And I hear from Brian Wardle all the time on the post game shows of the Bradley games. Yes, you want to win the game, and ultimately at the end of the night, if you got the W, great. It's a lot easier to handle some of the errors that happened when you got the win. But it's never always about, especially throughout the season, it's never always about just the win. Like these coaches have a standard. And they want to see the game played to that standard. And that's way more important to them than getting the win. Like, yeah, once you get to the postseason, it becomes like just a survive and advance, kind of mode. But they want to see teams playing to their identity and within sort of what the staff has laid out as the bar for the program. And I love seeing that where she's like, hey, like we won. And granted, she said it in the tournament, so that kind of contradicts my point about survive and advance, but she's like, yeah, we won, but we didn't play to our standard. Essentially we didn't. And so I guess, and that goes, a lot of coaches are perfectionists and you're never going to be perfect, but I think seeing the game played the right way in the coach's eyes, is a very, 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 very close second to winning. Ultimately, you want to win, but they really care about seeing the game played the right way.
I mean, they did have to survive and advance in a couple of those games because they have a target on their back. When you're undefeated, you got a target on your back, and that is when your coaching prowess shines, and you want to see your players playing the right way. Not every team is going to just blow through like UConn did. And in women's college basketball, there are a few teams that have targets on their back, and South Carolina was one of them. And Dawn Staley did a hell of a job. I mean, undefeated, I don't care. I think I said this on X. I don't care who you are or what league it is. Going undefeated is difficult, and it's an accomplishment, and we should be praising those teams and those programs that do it because it is so hard. 36 games or 37 games in a row without a loss, that's hard to do because you're not on your A game every single game. And so I think it's a testament to her.